let my ex drive me home from the club. My husband was waiting on the lawn. Hi, Reddit. My name is Elsa, and a lot has been going on, but I will try to make this story as short as possible. I'm 33 years old, and my husband is 35. He and I have been married for 5 years. All the while, our marriage had been stable. We knew who did what and when to do it. I buy groceries, he pays all the bills, electricity, mortgage, everything around the house. Occasional dinner on weekends, church on Sundays. Our life was all planned out. We had no kids yet, so everything was pretty easy. Unlike the rough life I used to live, Eli offered me something different, and I almost forgot all about my past. Right from college, I'd always been naive. I never came to terms with that fact until recently. I always told myself I wasn't being a fool. I was just trying to make myself and others happy at the same time. So when we went on dinners, I paid the bills. At karaoke, I paid the bill, even at clubs. I practically sponsored the lavish lives of all my friends back then. But after college, we all just kind of split up. My best friend Jane's family moved out of town. My boyfriend at the time was leaving too, so he broke up with me after cheating, saying he couldn't do long distance. And that's when I met Eli. I was so heartbroken that the one I wanted to be with didn't want me as much. But Eli opened my eyes, showed me that there was more to life than what my ex offered. He paid for dinners, which my ex never did, and he definitely didn't make me do his laundry. He showed me what a good man looked like, and eventually I completely forgot about the storm and toxicity that came with my ex. We got married and lived happily, but then things started to shift. It started when we went on a vacation. It was our anniversary, and Eli wasn't one to celebrate publicly. We always traveled out to celebrate together, just the two of us. I was on the balcony that day, sipping a glass of wine while Eli watched TV, probably thinking of the next quiet place we'd be having dinner. I stared at him for a long time, thinking how lucky I was to have him, but at the same time, remembering how exciting my life was before. The friends I had, my boyfriend at the time, Jamie, and all the places we used to go and the things we did. I wondered how I moved from the life I was living to an entirely opposite one, and I started missing old times. On a day like that, I'd be jumping from one table to the other. Jamie used to take us to loud parties to celebrate us. Even though he didn't give me gifts like Eli did, I still missed the wild life. But I was living a good life. I had a good husband who loved me dearly, and I had a good paying job. I couldn't have asked for more, shouldn't have yearned for more. So I shoved all the thoughts away and went back inside to meet Eli. But some weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I was hesitant to pick up, but for some reason, I did. If I hadn't, maybe Eli and I would have still been together by now. It was my ex, Jamie. He said he was in town and just thought to check up on me. I don't know why I became super excited. It had been so long since I last heard from him, but that was the beginning of my downfall. We got texting, and I started staring at my screen more often, spending long hours on calls with him, and I started paying less attention to Eli. Sometimes I didn't even notice he was there. Even when we were having conversations, I zoned out completely most of the time, thinking of my chats with Jamie, the flirtatious conversations, and what we used to be. I found myself randomly smiling sometimes. It was like I was going crazy. Maybe it's because Jamie had a hold on me, or I never really stopped crushing on him. He couldn't stop saying how much he missed me and had to come to town just so he could get a chance to see me. We talked about the moments we spent with each other, the friends we had, and our current work status. I told him I'd gotten a job at a finance firm and got a huge salary every month, but he on the other hand said he was moving in between jobs. I should have sensed it then, that he didn't just come back because he wanted to, but I was too stupid. After that conversation, he started pressing that we should meet and spend some time together. I liked the idea. It was an opportunity to get out of my boring life and explore with Jamie. So I agreed, and one weekend we went out for dinner. It was a really fancy restaurant. I was flattered. And Jamie acted like a gentleman, pulled out the chair for me, helped me with my bag, stuff like that. I was even surprised because the Jamie I knew was anything but a gentleman. After compliments were exchanged, we started catching up on old times and reminded each other of the silly things we used to do back in college, like sneaking into the library at night to make out and holding dramatic fake breakups in the midst of our confused friends, only to hug in the end and laugh it off. That's probably why, when we finally broke up, our friends thought it was another prank. But it was all fun while it lasted. But when the waiter brought the bill, Jamie pretended to check his pocket for his wallet, then turned to me with a shocked face and said he'd forgotten his wallet at home. He then went ahead and asked me to pay for the meal. I didn't suspect anything then, and paying the bill wasn't a problem for me. I also ate the meal, so why not? I saw him smile as I brought out my card to pay. I wasn't sure why he was smiling, but I smiled back. As we walked out of the restaurant, he whispered in my ear that I shouldn't worry. He'll pay for all my troubles. And I found myself giggling like an 18-year-old at the sound of that. The next thing I knew, we were in the back seat of my car, and he was unzipping my dress. I enjoyed all of it. But I didn't realize what I had done until I got home. I met Eli in the dining room, having a cup of coffee and watching the news as usual. Earlier, when I was leaving home, I told him I was just catching up with one of my girlfriends who was in town. But I came back trying to tiptoe into the house with my hair disorganized, and the gown I wore only zipped up halfway. Eli merely looked at me and then asked me how my girlfriend was. I nearly stuttered because I almost forgot what I'd told him. I was totally disoriented. He asked me if I was okay. I laughed nervously and asked why I wouldn't be. He came closer to me and looked me dead in the eye. I couldn't stare back because I felt guilty. But he turned my face towards him and told me that if there was anything I wanted to tell him or thought he should know, that was the time, and that he wouldn't hold it against me. I thought of telling him all about Jamie that minute, but I was scared of what he'd think of me, and I knew telling him would mean I wouldn't be able to see Jamie anymore, and we were just getting started. I didn't want to ruin it just yet, but that was my mistake. I wish I had just opened up then. Eli just smiled at me and went into the bedroom. I should have taken that as a warning and stopped. Or maybe when he started asking other questions that were too specific, I should have known he knew something, but I didn't. I was too busy following Jamie around like a gum stuck to his shoe. We kept doing things we weren't supposed to, and having illegal sex in really odd places. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is, Jamie was using me and I didn't even know it. The whole scenario of him forgetting his card at home happened more than once. But I naively fell for it each time. And as if the whole drama with Jamie wasn't enough, word must have gotten to Jane too, and then she started asking me for stuff. I know I said the reason Jamie and I broke up years ago was distance, but I guess I was just too ashamed to add that he'd cheated on me with my closest friend. I guess I wouldn't really call it cheating, but I saw what looked like cheating. They were all in each other's hair, and they must have thought me stupid enough to buy the lie they told me when I caught them. But it didn't matter anyway, because Jamie seized the opportunity to break up with me right that moment. While Jane and I still talked occasionally, I noticed the moment I started working, she only resurfaced when she needed something, which was very often, like every few months. And maybe Jamie told her I was loaded at the time he visited, because she was asking me for money more frequently, too frequently. I'm talking daily requests kind of frequently. It took me a while to realize I was only a means to an end for them both, and that my husband was the only one who actually cared for me. I earned almost the same amount, but he didn't need me to pay any bills in the house. He literally contributed financially to the house 10 times more than I ever did, and he most certainly never claimed to forget his wallets when we went on dates, just so I could pay with my own money. Eli was just perfect, and maybe I thought he'd be there whenever I was done steaming off or living my supposed dream life with another man. But the last straw came not long after. Hamie invited me to a club. He said our friends, including Jane, were going to be there. I had already lost that sense of betrayal from years ago, and of course I was happy to see everyone, including Jane. They all seemed equally happy to see me at first. We drank quite a bit and reminded ourselves of old times. We teased each other, though I was teased the most. They just managed to remind me of what a stupid girl I used to be, and how everyone used me to do their handwork for them. I used to do homework and sometimes even write tests for Jamie, and he'd end up getting a better score than me. I was such a dimwit back then. Sad to say, I'm not even sure it's any different now. 'Cause my stupidity led me into this mess in the first place. Long story cut short, Jamie cheated again. I don't even know whether cheating is the right word, but I just saw him flirting with another girl at the club. She was giving him a damn lap dance. Pardon my language. But he just sat there smiling, engaging. I threw a fit about it, or at least tried to, but he managed to charm his way through to me again, just like he had done the last time I caught him with Jane. The club started emptying up, people were leaving, but Jamie and I were still there. We found our way to a closet within, and we had sex. It made me feel relieved, like I hadn't just caught him with another woman on top of him. God, I'm stupid. But worse, when I went to settle the bill for drinks I'd taken, since obviously there were no gentlemen around me to do that, the bill was outrageous. That's when I realized that all my former buddies had gotten ridiculously drunk on my money, but I wasn't sober enough to even think much about it. Jamie was beside me, caressing and kissing me in places I could not comprehend. I was in a rush to just pay up and leave with him to somewhere more private. We ended up in my car once again, and we had another quick one in there. I was too drunk to drive, and on top of that, my legs were shaking from the intercourse. Jamie's kind of sex was more aggressive than what I was used to, but I liked it. It brought me chills and excitement at the same time, so I let Jamie drive me. It was a quiet drive, except he kept touching me in places that made me moan while he steered the wheel. But when we finally got to my house, what I saw made me gasp even louder than I did when his fingers were in me. Eli was standing there on our lawn. He didn't look scared or bitter or angry. He didn't look anything. His face was unreadable, which was really unlike him. Formerly, I could tell what Eli could or could not do, and he was just so predictable. But I guess that was the last straw for him. I quickly got out of the car, head dizzy, my dress barely covering my thighs, and then I asked him what he was doing in front of the house by that time. He just said he was waiting for me, and whomever I'd be coming home with, and then Jamie came out of the car. He's so stubborn. I'd clearly told him to stay in the car. When Eli saw him, he just smiled. Then he said to Jamie, "So this is you in flesh and blood." I was confused, but then he brought out his phone and showed me a video I drunkenly posted from the club. It was me, Jamie, and my other friends, except Jamie was all over me, and I didn't try to stop him. I was drunk, and I tried to explain that to Eli, but he just wouldn't listen. He was too focused on Jamie, pointed him out in the picture, and said he must be the famous Jamie. I was surprised. I'd never told Eli about him. Then he said my phone had chimed one night, and he saw a message that didn't seem only friendly. And that's when he started to go through our chats. He knew everything. The meetups, the series of sex we'd had and later teased about, everything. Then he joked that he was a little disappointed. He expected Jamie to be better looking. I got frustrated and yelled that he should stop playing around, told him to go inside with me and talk it out. He then asked what would happen to Jamie. I turned and looked at Jamie, but I couldn't say anything. I couldn't just send him away. Eli just looked at his feet and smiled. Then he said he couldn't believe that even in a moment like that, I still didn't know where I stood. He sighed and said I shouldn't worry, because he had a solution to the Jamie problem and a surprise. He went inside and locked the door. I heard things moving inside. I thought he had locked me out forever and wasn't coming back. I started yelling and begging and hitting the door hard. Then he came out, but not alone. He had boxes packed and a smug smile on his face. It was dark, so I couldn't see properly. At first I thought he was packing his things to leave, and for a moment I forgot Jaime was there and got on my knees begging him not to leave. Because frankly, I didn't know what my life would become without him. Or maybe because I had an idea of what it'd be like. Miserable, unstable, and alone. I held onto his shirt and begged him to stay. I told him I was sorry, and it would be the last time I slept out, or cheated, or even met with another man. But he looked down at me confused and said, "Oh no, I'm not leaving. You are." My heart sank at the sound of that, and my head started spinning. I wasn't sure if I heard him right. I didn't know where I'd go, what I'd do, where to start from. All the while, Eli just stared down at me and then at Jamie, who was fumbling with my car keys in his hand. I started to beg again. I told him the truth, that Jamie was my ex from college, and I swore I had nothing to do with him until a week ago. But the only information he took was that Jamie was my ex. Then he said it made sense, and added that he wanted my happiness more than anything, and since apparently Jamie was what made me happy, I could go be with him. Then he shut the door on me. I cried, wailed, even threatened to kill myself, but nothing moved him. The door remained shut. I laid down there on what used to be my lawn for about 30 minutes weeping, before Jamie helped me up and told me I could stay at his place. I looked up at him with so much hope in my eyes because I really didn't know what I'd do next or where I'd go. We got to the house and it looked fabulous. Everything looked perfect. The furniture, the painting, the entire arrangement was perfect. I almost started to believe that he really didn't have his wallet with him all the other times. But as I lay on the bed, Jamie and his financial status was the least of my problems. I started thinking about what would happen next. Even if the house belonged to Jamie, I couldn't stay there forever. He would never marry me. That I knew for sure. This was Jamie we were talking about. He always ran away when there was trouble. I was surprised he even stayed that night as Eli kicked me out. But I was soon to find out why. I eventually slept off. I wouldn't say the night was peaceful, but I have no right to complain. And I needed that sleep because the morning was not very welcoming. Jamie was nowhere to be found. My handbag was still there with my suitcases, but I checked and my credit card was gone. I looked out the window only to find out that my car was gone too. I tried calling Jamie, but every time it went straight to voicemail. I tried calling Jane. Maybe she knew where Jamie had gone, but she didn't pick up either. I sat on the cold floor, thinking of how my life had shattered in just a matter of days, of how my husband would probably never take me back. But I couldn't understand why Jamie would leave me alone in his house. I then consoled myself that maybe he went on a quick errand or something, that he would be back soon, and as soon as he was, I would leave. But as if to clear my doubt, the door opened, and it wasn't Jamie that walked through the door. It was a strange man. I asked him where Jamie was. He said Jamie was only staying in his home for a few days, and that he was scheduled to leave that morning, thus his arrival the same day. I didn't even care to ask further, didn't know what else to ask, so I just used the change I had in my bag to take a cab home, but Eli wasn't there. He still wasn't taking my calls. I had no option but to call my mom, who drove all the way from New Jersey to come pick me up. It's been 2 weeks, and I've been living with her since. I took a leave from work, told them I had a family crisis, which is kind of true. Eli has filed for a divorce, and I know there's no changing his mind now, so yeah. I didn't know any of this would turn out this way, but what's done is done. All I want now is to focus on how to rebuild. I thought of pursuing the whole Jamie case, but I really don't think it's worth it, and I don't want him to get into trouble. Plus, I already contacted my bank, so he can't use my card anymore, though he had already used a reasonable sum. I want to believe it's because he does not have any money, nor does he have a job. But I suspect he's spending it with Jane or something. Maybe they both planned it, because she hasn't contacted me since either. Well, I don't know. Neither do I want to find out. I'm already heartbroken as it is. And as for Eli, I'm so sorry for everything I've done. I wished I could tell him that personally, because I feel really awful. I wish I had just listened or responded when he asked me the first time. I know he would have forgiven me then if I'd owned up to my mistake, but now there's nothing I or anyone can do to convince him. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. I know some of you are already disgusted by me at this point, but I'm really sorry for everything I've done, which apparently all backfired. I've never been a smart one.